Couldn't find any buttons.
Uhuru.
Oh, we're starting? Oh,
Uhuru.
Uhuru, and welcome to tonight's episode of Black Power Blueprint Live. This is Penny Hess, Chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, and it is an honor to be here at the Uhuru House at Aquabaha, 4101 West Florissant Avenue in St. Louis. And we're very honored to be joined by a very special guest tonight, President Kalambayi Andenet, the leader of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. Uhuru, and welcome, President Kalambayi. So Black Power Blueprint Live is a bi-weekly web series that we've hosted from the Black Power Blueprint Reparations Campaign. And our goal is to raise resources and let people know about the incredible work of the Black Power Blueprint here in St. Louis, headquartered here at this moment, and its significance as a program that is totally unique in the world, that puts political and economic power in the hands of the African working class. So it's very powerful, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more tonight. I just wanted to say before we start our interview with President Kalambayi tonight on this whole question of America banning and suppressing the African vote, the black vote here in the United States historically, and continuing to do that today, and what are the struggles and how this is being taken on by the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement and other fronts of the African People's Socialist Party's led Uhuru movement. I just want to say that I am the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, and that is the organization of white people that was founded by the African People's Socialist Party to have a strategic location extending the African Revolution inside the belly of the beast, right into the heart of white power. It is not the responsibility of Africans to do that. It is our responsibility as white people to be able to go in and talk to our families, our neighbors, our church, everything about the truth about our relationship to African people, that everything that we have comes at the expense of African people, and that we owe reparations to African people, and that is a very, very powerful stand. So, I just want to start by saluting the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Uhuru. Yes. Uhuru, and we've just seen so much of the chairman on the internet, on social media. He's been in the Oxford Union, just killing it in that debate, winning 2-1, hands down, when he debated others at the Oxford Union a couple of months ago. We've seen the chairman on just covered in the news, like in the Weekly Challenger in St. Petersburg, Florida, which covered that whole debate. It was in St. Louis newspaper. We've seen him just recently on Facebook, where he was in New Orleans, organizing the African community there. And then he's headed to Washington, D.C., where he is going to be speaking at the anti-war rally on March 30th.
Before then, he's going to be here in St. Louis at the Aquabaha this weekend for NWO.
Oh, that's right, the African National Women's Organization. He's going to be here for that. Wow, I mean, chairman, it's a revolutionary jet setter, just demand, in demand. Absolutely, all around the world, speaking, organizing, putting out the truth, and just so brilliantly. He's amazing. And the Chairman Omali Yeshitela, is the leader of the African People's Socialist Party, building the African Revolution, the right of African people to be free and liberated, and to have all the resources returned to it that have been stolen through colonialism, the enslavement of African people, and all the different ways that African people have been exploited and assaulted by white power for the last 600 years. So I do want to also salute Deputy Chair Onozine Yeshitela, who coordinates this Black Power Blueprint program, who puts it on the ground, who came here in 2017 for a week to check out, how to get an Uhuru house here, and found the opportunity to purchase city-owned buildings that were very dilapidated, just got a number of those and called on us from the Solidarity Committee to build a campaign to raise resources for that. And you know, we've seen this beautiful, beautiful Uhuru house where we're at, the incredible transformation, where there were big holes. There was no floor, there was no roof. The brick was falling off.
Yeah, I mean, the floor was not there.
I know, it wasn't.
At all.
And it was, you know, this was actually a condemned building, but yet the African Revolution saved it. It is a beautiful state-of-the-art building now. So that is very exciting, and there's many other projects, including the flagpole across the street. Right. The 50-foot flagpole with a beautiful 25-foot flag, red, black, and green flag, and that means so much, to the African community here. And we're getting ready to take on, under Deputy Chair's leadership, the whole building of the Jico Kitchen and the Bakery Cafe, which is over on Goodfellow Avenue. So that is our phase 3 that we're working for, of really bringing in the resources for that. So I want to salute, again, Deputy Chair Onizane Shatella, Chairman Omali Shatella, and just thank all of you who have contributed over $65,000 on actually about $70,000 now. And in terms of just what's come on to the crowdfunding website, but also we've had this incredible birthday fundraiser that's raised about $35,000, $40,000. Yes. Giving Tuesday, and so many other ways that these resources have come in. So we want to say Uhuru and thank you. All right, Uhuru. And so tonight on our phase 3 blackpowerblueprint.org website, which we call on you to go to, because it has videos, it has pictures, it tells the whole story of the development of the Black Power Blueprint. You can just learn so much there and see the struggle in action, all the volunteers, all the amazing African contractors and you know, people from the community who have participated in this incredible campaign. So, you know, we thank all of you who participated. Tonight in our phase 3 fundraising, we are at $6,545, and we want to, you know, go open up and go beyond $7,000 tonight. So we want to raise a minimum of $555 tonight.
We can do it.
We can absolutely do that, and we're going to talk about that more.
Yes.
So go to blackpowerblueprint.org and go to the donate button. We also have a volunteer button there.
Yes.
So you can volunteer and be part of taking this on. This is very, very exciting. So tonight we're talking about this question of voter suppression and the struggle for Black self-determination. And we're really excited to talk about this topic here in St. Louis, where you know, the African community is under the leadership of the Uhuru movement. And you know, there's so many things going on in this town where there is, and we're going to talk to you about this complete, well, a very strong divide between where the African community lives and the white community, and it's like two different worlds, two different realities. And we have this town where they're trying to reduce the number of wards and aldermen. Want to talk about that struggle that InPDUM is taking on, and also this attempt to merge the city and county into one thing, and what that means in terms of this city. So we know that the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement has been waging a campaign to keep 28, and I want to talk to you about what that means. And I also want to say that, you know, Chairman Omali Shatella has summed this up a lot. The fact that, first of all, African people fought and died for the right to vote in the 1950s and did not win the right to vote until 1965. It was 100 years after the end of chattel slavery, the abolition of slavery. 100 years, African people could not really, in reality, vote. And so it took 100 years. It took constant struggle to go up against the dogs, the fire hoses, and death, you know, for African people to win that through hard-won struggle. So, and we know that today, that all over this country, wherever African people are, that this government, in one way or another, is still suppressing the right of African people to vote.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there's a lot more I could say about that, but I do want to, talk to President Kalambayi and, get your input of all the tremendous work and all the things that are going on here in St. Louis. So first of all, I know that you were born and raised here in St. Louis.
Yes.
And so talk about, first of all, the conditions here, what it is like for African people here in St. Louis. We know about the struggle in Ferguson in 2014 and, just life for the African community here versus the conditions, the white community, and what your role is and has been and how you grew up here. So just talk to us about that.
Uhuru, first I want to really express my deepest appreciation for the Black Power Blueprint Project and every person that worked on this committee, whatever role that you have played, if you volunteered, if you donated, if you sat on the steering committee, whatever you have done, if you shared it on your Facebook page, I just really want to salute you because this is an amazing project that, really, go beyond just lip service, but actually in a practical way is changing the conditions of African people every single day. So I just really want to salute you for taking that charge in whatever way that you have done that. And I just really want to express my deepest appreciation to my leadership, Chairman Amali Yeshatella, and just really appreciate Chairman and African People Social Party that leads this work, that fight for this work, because we don't see a dog by its tail, we see it by its head, meaning that, it's somebody that has to, be accountable to the work and be accountable to the liberation of African people. And Chairman has, stood up to that challenge, for decades now, and I just really appreciate that, to deepen our understanding of African internationalists, because I couldn't answer this question without leadership from Chairman Amali Yeshatella and African internationalists. So everything that I am going to say about my reality of St. Louis is through the lens of someone that have a theory that have educated me and helped me to understand it. Because from, before this day, Penny, I would have, blamed myself. I would have blamed my mother for the deaths of my brothers. I would have blamed, African people for the conditions that we live in all the time, because that's the only thing that has been given to me from white power, from the media, from, church, from everything that I have been given from birth, have taught me that I'm my own problem. So I just really appreciate African internationalists because it goes to the root cause and really helped me to have a theory to be able to speak to my own interests, to be a part of leading this struggle, being part of the working class. And so I just cannot even express to everybody out there how grateful I am to have an African internationalist, that a theory that is going to make sure and guarantee my kids a future. Because the conditions of African people in St. Louis and anywhere we find ourselves in, it's the same. It's one that we fear waking up tomorrow more than we fear death, because death is too common. It happens all the time. Africans die, and you hear about Africans dying, and it's just like, maybe to white people, like how you hear about a wedding. Africans go to jail. You can't meet an African that don't have a family member that's in jail. Our families have been ripped apart, and it's nothing normal about the relationships that we have with one another no more, because it has been completely destroyed by white power, from slavery to even now with the welfare system and everything that is just in our communities. We living in, food deserts. Here in the north side, it take you too long to be able to find a grocery store to get food that is something that you should be putting in your kid's body. But we have liquor stores on every corner, and we have churches on every corner, because that's what they want us to have in our community. So, I grew up in St. Louis. I lived in Walnut Park. People that are watching know that Walnut Park is very famous to be one of the worst neighborhoods that you could live in St. Louis. At one point, President Obama, before Mike Brown died, deployed the National Guards into Walnut Park. In Walnut Park, you know, growing up, I knew all my neighbors. You know, everybody that lived in Walnut Park, we all knew each other. We looked out for each other. It was a, you know, very family-centered place where it was a, you know, my grandma, you know, everybody can whoop your butt. If you got out of line, anybody can get you. But, you know, the poverty was real. Drugs were real in our community. But, you know, what's funny is even growing up in Walnut Park, I never, with all the drugs and that was happening, that was placed in our community, the first time I actually seen drugs was in Parkway North, because I was a DSEC kid. Because one of the things that they have been trying to do is to recapture the city. And I never appreciated this until African Internationalists to help me to understand that here in St. Louis, it's real black. The city, we not dispersed like a lot of places when you go to, you know, St. Petersburg, or you go to California, or you go to Kansas City, Houston. Africans are dispersed all over, and that's strategically. Gentrification have came in and wiped out the African communities, and they dispersed us all over because they know that it would be harder for us to organize together if we are dispersed. So in St. Louis, you know, you have huge communities of African people. So like St. Louis City, they try to say it's 45% black, but I think that their statistics is wrong, that it's more black people than that on the north side of St. Louis, and then North County as well. It's very, very black. And the community is really, we are in one community. So anytime you have a community of people that are oppressed, that are colonized, we're gonna have high crime and poverty. And poverty is one of the worst crimes to humanity, like imposed poverty. No jobs, hard, I mean, just extremely hard to make it. You hear people saying all the time, Africans experience this. Before, I thought that, you know, in St. Louis, you could just go to California, New York, you find jobs, it's so much different. But now I understand that this is opposed poverty, that they make it very extremely hard for one to be able to find employment in St. Louis. So I know I had to stop, but I just wanted to, yeah. I just wanted to give like the best visual of the conditions of what Africans experience here in St. Louis, and that's, you know, that's how I can explain it. And so I wanted to just jump back to say that I went to Parkway North. I mentioned that, and
is that a white community?
That's a white community, all white community. I mean, rich community, lots and lots of old money. Old slave money is in Creve Coeur. And what they did is they came to our parents, early 80s, and they said, hey, you want your kids to go to our schools? And their schools, you know, were more advanced and had more things, technology and things. And every parent wanted to give their kid what they didn't have. So our parents, you know, jumped on the board to do this DSEG thing, but what happened strategically, it was not for our interest. This is what white power always do. They come and shine something like they Jesus, and they're gonna give you something great to oppose something else horrible on your community that do not speak to your interests but their own. And so our parents put us in these DSEG program, and then they shut down our schools. So you see so many schools on the north side of St. Louis that are shut down, that we have no schools in North County, in North City, and it's happening like that in North County as well. And what happened is they got so much money for each kid to get on the school bus to go to the DSEG program. But once we got out there, they demonized us. They said that we were monsters. They said that we all had learning disabilities. They put us in special classes. They put us on Ritalin. Their kids had drugs that they gave us and said, hey, you black, so you supposed to be the pusher man, where we wasn't even exposed to these things. Their kids went in their parents' medicine cabinets, got drugs, and gave it to us, and then we got arrested for them. And they got to go to, you know, beautiful results for drug problems and things like that. And so that was one of the attempts to gentrify the city, to shut down our schools. So that's the first thing they did. They shut down our schools by the DSEG program. That was one of their strategic plans to, you know, destroy the black schools. So that's just, you know, some of the conditions of African people here in St. Louis.
Well, I really appreciate that, and I can certainly see from being here this, what they call the Del Mar divide, this complete difference between the reality that white people lead in the city and the conditions of African people. And it has to be so glaringly visible to anybody that opens their eyes to see, you know. And so I think that it's really powerful that you are such an incredible organizer. And really, you know, I've seen videos of President Kalambayi speaking to funerals or to a community meeting or walking into a crowd and just electrify the room with just how you were speaking, with, of course, incredible political analysis of African internationalism, but at the same time from the heart and from the experience that you yourself have lived, and you know that this is you, and it's very, very, very exciting, and you know, just really salute your organizing here in the city and all the places that you go, all around the country and the world. And so, in terms of this question of voting, I do want you to talk about what is the Keep 28 campaign, but before we do that, I want to ask you, do you think, or does the Uhuru movement believe that voting is the answer for African people, and why is it important to, you know, that Africans do have the right to vote?
Yeah, Uhuru, I think that's a great question, and I do want to, you know, elaborate if it have been any confusion around, you know, the Uhuru movement, the International People Democratic Uhuru Movement, African People Socialist Party position on, you know, voting. And Chairman said it so eloquently, so I'm just going to try to like verbatim say his words. He said if we thought that we can vote our way out of this, he would say, let's vote. If we thought we could pray our way out of this, let's pray. But the reality is that we didn't get into this mess by a vote, and we're not going to get ourselves out of this by a vote. So we are not by any means thinking that, you know, a vote, African in office will appease or somehow liberate African people, and we would have power, you know, over our own life with this system currently being attacked. It can't. There's no way ever for this system. I don't care if we have a revolutionary president. If that revolutionary president is not trying to destroy colonialism, capitalism, then we don't have liberation. And even that revolutionary president is not going to liberate us. And that's just the bottom line. The bottom line is that we have to make a revolution. That we cannot have peace or understand peace or anything until we make that revolution, because African people have to have complete control over the means and production over our life. And that's the only way that that can happen. With that being said, we are revolutionaries, and it's a tactic and it's a strategy to revolution. Revolutions are not born, revolutionaries are taught and learned. So that means that it's an art to war, and everybody knows that. So one of the tactics to our revolutionary trajectory is to use these electoral politics, where we see the masses of people flooding to these polls or trying to see or understand. And we got the neo-colonial puppets that have been using the black struggle to be able to get crumbs from the slave master table. And so this is a perfect opportunity for us to use this platform to push revolution. But that don't mean that we can surrender or compromise on the trajectory of revolution. But we can use this platform to say things like black community control of the police and expose the neo-colonial puppet, where he has been freely in his room speaking for all of us, because the African working class have not been organized. Well, we're organized. You know, we're getting organized. And so we can speak for ourselves because we have a theory and we have leadership, the African People Socialist Party, to organize us, to have a theory, to have a demand, to say that this is what we demand, this is what we want, and use the electoral politics to fight for that. And so, you know, that's why, you know, using the electoral politics is a strategic revolutionary struggle.
Wow. Very powerful, very powerful. And before I go in, let me just thank a few people here. We've raised $100 towards our goal so far. I want to thank Janice Kant.
Uhuru,
$50.
Janice. Uhuru.
Lisa Watson, $50.
Uhuru.
All right, so we only have $400 more to go.
400 more to go. We got it. We got this.
We got to get to the 7,000 mark there. So just go to blackpowerblueprint.org and put in whatever you can put in tonight.
Yes.
So, President Kalambayi, so can you talk about this campaign that you and InPDUM, International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, are waging called the Keep 28? And what does that mean? And what are the goals of that?
Yes. So this was an amazing campaign that Chairman Amali Yesatella, he was here, and you know, he reads the newspaper. Everybody knows Chairman always have a newspaper. Yeah. And it's so important for us to grab those newspapers and read them because, you know, white power always tell their little secrets in those papers, and we need to know those. You have to study and understand. So Chairman seen in the paper where they were talking about the war reduction, and he brought this to myself as the, you know, I'm the international president, and said this is something that InPDUM local have to take on. We have to stop gentrification. And so,
what is a ward?
So a ward is a area. In St. Louis, we have 28 wards. So we have communities that are, you know, district as a ward. And so where you vote. And every ward has an alderman or alderwoman, an alderperson. Okay, an alderperson to be politically correct. So we have 28 wards in St. Louis. They say they numbers, and I say they say because the more they say stuff, and then I just do my own investigation, I'm finding out that a lot of stuff they say is lies. But you know, 14 of these wards are predominantly African. The other ones, they say, they have been gentrified. Like the South Side has been gentrified and everybody knows it. You know, the Central West End has been gentrified and everybody knows it. So we have 28 wards. So the thing is, they have been trying numerous of times to cut these wards. Well, someone would say, well, why? Because they say, well, this is what they say. They say, well, it's not working as it is because look at the North Side. Look how horrible it is. Look at the Delmore Divide. So obviously, you know, having 28 wards is the reason why the Delmore Divide exists. So if we cut it to 14, then the North Side will be able to be tied into one of those gentrified areas to their plan and have more development plans and things because, you know, white people live over there. So then this white person will share this plan with that North Side. And so somehow that will make it better. Well, this is only better for white power. This is not even speaking to anything or any reason why the North Side looked the way it looked. It looked the way it looked because white power wanted to. Like it don't look the way it looked because Pookie and Ray Ray stand on the corner. It don't look the way it looked because of any of those things that, you know, they try to tell you, well, you know, did you hear the shootings last night? Well, again, you know, they place guns in our community. They place drugs in our community. I mean, we've seen that they have a list of officers in St. Louis that could not be trusted. Okay, so you have a list of officers that cannot be trusted, but they still have guns in our community. That is the craziest thing that I ever seen. I'm like, okay, so is these police officers on suspension? They're like, no, they still police officers. They just on this list that we don't trust. How do we have police officers in a community with guns that kill and we don't trust them? I mean, it don't make any sense. So that's why the North Side looked the way it do. And so the chairman said that, you know, like this war reduction and the Keep 28 is a fight for black power. It is not a fight for any particular alder person. Okay, this is not because we saying that we want to keep the particular people that have been in office. No, this is a fight. This is an attack on the whole African colony. This is an attack on all black people in St. Louis. And so that's why we have to take this on, one. So we want to make sure that the black community have someone in office that speaks to their interests. So we have more work to do. So we want to keep the 28 wards by having this petition and have people to sign the petition so we could put it back on the ballot. 2, we want to have Sunday rallies to educate the African community and bring them into organization, bring them in to deepen their understanding of why this is an attack against them and what do this mean for our life. You know what I'm saying? Gentrification is genocide. Mm-hmm. This is murder to African people. Everywhere we see gentrification happen, we see Black lives die. We see Black people dying, being dispersed, you know, in mental hospitals and so many other things that can happen because you are pushed out of your community. And so, you know, that's 2, we want to educate the community. 3, we want to influence and we want to, you know, deepen people. We want to encourage people to run for office. Mm. We want to not just to say, oh yeah, I'm great, I woke up this morning, I want to run for office, but we want to influence their platform. So we, you know, adopted the 19 points from the Black is Back Coalition to say that this is one of our demands. This is one of our things that we want to be able to do. We want to, you know, to influence people to run for office on the 19-point platform, and so people can see what it looked like when someone fight for Black power. What did it look like when somebody fight for your interests? Because like you brought up earlier, Black people died to vote. But, you know, young people and Africans are not running to the polls. Polls prove and show that Black people are not voting. Why? It's not because we, you know, want to, you know, have some disdain against our ancestors that died for voting. It's that we don't see anything that is speaking to our interests on the ballot. We don't see housing on the ballot. We don't see Black community control of the police on the ballot. We don't see economic development to the Black community in a real sense on the ballot. So why am I going voting? I'm too busy trying to fight colonialism that I experience every day that I don't have time to bother myself with the foolishness of voting, and it don't even serve to anything of my interest. So that's what we're thinking. We're thinking like, I just gotta survive. I'm trying to make sure that my kids eat tonight, and voting is not going to put a meal on my kids' table, you know? And so we want to, you know, inform people of how to listen for people who, you know, speak to your interests. We can't just vote because somebody is young. We can't just vote for somebody to have tattoos. We can't just vote for somebody because they're Black. We can't just vote for somebody because they dress nice. What are they saying? Can we hold them accountable? You know what I'm saying? What are they plans to do? And that was another, you know, really important thing that Keep 28 really wanted to, one of our demands and our goals, you know, to do, to inform and educate the African community and bring them into organization, teach them how to hear for their own interest, and hold whoever the elected officials that are in office accountable.
Uhuru, that is really, really powerful, Uhuru. And I just want to go back a second. So, I mean, St. Louis, so they say, on the census is about 50% African, 50% white. Mm-hmm. Although the city probably really has more African people mm-hmm. than white people. I mean, they're always manipulating those, and they don't want to say there's more than 50%. But so what you're saying is that the city is saying that they're going to cut the wards in half, mm-hmm. and every African ward has to be tied to a white ward?
Yeah, they saying that it would help. It would be. Well, no one knows how they're going to redistrict it, but when we just had the Board of Presidents, and I was listening very closely to them and what their plans is and how they're going to redistrict it, because I should say that in 2012, they put it on the ballot, and 60% people did not vote for the war reduction. It passed barely. It barely passed. Africans left it unchecked because of the verbiage of how it was written was confusing, and no one knew it was going to be on the ballot. No one did any propaganda to let people know about what the war reduction meant. And so, and this was the same time Obama was running for office. So Africans fled to the polls. So they say all these people came to the polls this year, but the people wasn't educated by that initiative that was on the ballot for the war reduction Prop R, I believe it was called. And so it's supposed to, take place when the new census come in, and the new census, it will be in 2020. So they would actually cut the wards in 2021. And that's why this petition is so important. We need 30,000 signatures of registered voters in the city to sign this petition to stop the mayor, because our current mayor was the one, she was an alderperson at the time, and she led the pack
she led this campaign?
She led this campaign to cut the wards.
Wow.
So she have said that if it comes to her desk, she will veto it, and she do have veto power, but she can't veto a petition. So the people have the power to put this back on the ballot. So that's what we're trying to do. But yeah, they, I believe it was Megan Green that said that, she have definitely read our material, because she's trying to combat it. And she's saying, well, she knows that, the north side, but if the north side is attached to a war that been successful, then it can help that area. So the gentrified white wards are successful. So if we tie it to the north side, then it would be successful.
Wow. So that's, what a slap in the face.
Can I say one more? Let me say this one more thing that is just so telling about like this whole thing. Another thing that they want to put on the ballot, they're trying to get passed, is if you a city worker, or if you're a judge or a police officer or fire person or anything like that, you have to live in the city to work to have one of those jobs as a police officer or a judge. Well, they want to change it and let people who live outside of the city be able to be police officer and judges. So so the reason why they say that they want to do this is because there's no affordable housing in St. Louis, and that's laughable. Like, anybody know that St. Louis is one of the most affordable cities that you can live in. Like, if you can't afford to live in St. Louis City, you can't afford to live probably nowhere in the United States, because this is one of the affordable cities ever. But the real thing, what they're really saying is, I don't want to live on the north side with Africans until I murder them and put them in jail.
Exactly.
So I need to be a police officer, and I need to be a judge to put them in jail and murder them, and then I'll be able to come and live there. All these things are part of a big plot of dispersing and moving Africans out. And I just wanted to add that to the discussion of, the different things that they are trying to do, because I think that they know, they see Keep 28. If you Google, you see InPDUM, you see the work that we're doing, going out into the African community, and USM is part of Keep 28 as well. So we attacking at both ends, where Casey is leading outreach in the white community, raising awareness, going to every place, everywhere, and having a discussion with white people about the war reduction, and winning white people to sign the petition and understand that African people need to have power over their own life. And this is a threat. So they coming up with all these new things, like judges and police, like whatever we have to do to, disperse them, we want to be able to do. And that's why, that part of, Keep 28, winning people to run for office was so important, to be in that room and to be in place to push it back and to speak for the people.
Uhuru, wow. How is the response? How is the response from the community, and what are people saying?
So we had victories with Keep 28. We had two people that was working with us. Jesse Todd had been in the forefront of this fight for the 28 wards from the beginning. Kind of like a one-man fight at one point. We met him when we went to the first town hall meeting about the war reduction, and we seen this fiery African man that had all these statistics and knew about this struggle for the wards. And I introduced myself to him, got his contact information, and since then he has been a big help to Keep 28 in educating, coming to the Sunday rallies, speaking on panels, and getting, learning the 19 points, adopting the 19 points. When we first met him, he said he had never run for office.
Wow. And
when we first met him, he said, I never run for office. I see myself as the community person, and I do this work. Well, Jesse Todd did run for office for the 18th Ward, and he won. And so,
wow. So he is in the
18th Ward.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a very, it's in the city, but it's a very historical ward. It's a hot ward that had a lot of heat in it, a lot of people running in that ward. I think he ran against a total of 4 or 5 different people.
Wow.
This ward is a historical ward for St. Louis City, when Africans first was migrating here from Mississippi. That ward, that area right there, Finney, and all the Africans lived there. It was like, my grandma, she's 94, she told me that it was like Hollywood. That's what that ward was. She said that was the Hollywood. That's where the blues, that's where you can go to the, to the concert hall, etc. And even now, it's very close to what we call the Central West End, which is a rich white area. And they need the 18th Ward. They need to move Africans out of that ward so they can extend the Central West End. So this is and it has experienced some gentrification flurries over there, but now Jesse Todd is in office. So that was a victory.
That is a tremendous victory.
Yeah, that was a victory.
That is really powerful. And I mean, could you just say just the significance of that? Because you've said how, I mean, it's a revolutionary movement, but for the African working class community to have a taste of a level of political power and importance in the community in that way.
It's such a victory because one thing is, and I know that growing up, no one teaching, we had generation after generation that did not teach anyone how to fight. And Chairman say this all the time, and it was the first time that I ever seen somebody fight when I met Chairman in Ferguson. And that's contagious. And African people want to fight, but we need leadership. And leadership is here. It has arrived and is here in St. Louis. And the people were saying, I'm ready and I'm hungry for that. And Jesse Todd is a testimony to that because he wasn't jerking and driving like the other people that was running. It was people that were young, that protest and, carried militant looking. But their message was to cut the wards because that's what white power want them to say. It was people in that that ran against Jesse that would never say black community control of the police, but Jesse was bold enough to say black community control of the police. Wow. And so him winning is a testimony to all of them that this is a new day, and Africans are saying that we are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and we don't want no more cooning. We want real leadership, and we're ready to hear someone to be radical, and we're ready for somebody to take the charge to fight back, and that's why Jesse is in office. And I think that it was some people that had been influenced by the Uhuru movement, got cold feet because they felt like they couldn't say certain things, but they didn't win.
That is so exciting. That really, really shows what what the spirit of the times is. People want to hear the truth. The African community wants to hear the analysis. And even some people in the white community want to take the right stand. And they're sick of the BS that's out there. That, look at the Democratic Party versus the Republican Party. Like, well, what's the difference?
Right,
That is so exciting. It's really historic. It's certainly unique around the U.S. It sounds like in so many ways. And we're going to come back and talk to you a little bit more in a few minutes. I want to thank some people. This is a really great discussion tonight. There's so much more that we can say about it. And I'm very, very, very much appreciate everything all that you have laid out and just learning so much about the situation. And I want to thank Comrade Casey Mackey, who is actually our engineer tonight over here. Uhuru, $10.
Woo, Uhuru.
And Comrade Kitty Riley, who is in the building, in the room here, $25.
Uhuru.
Kitty says, saluting the campaign to keep the 28 wards for Black Power and African self-determination that is so powerful in St. Louis. The Black Power Blueprint, reparations now.
Uhuru.
And I am also going to put in $25 tonight. So that means, I don't know, I need Comrade who's texting me this to do the math.
Do the math.
I'm not going to start talking about that right now. But I do want to say that it is such an honor to have you here. And for us, as members of the African People's Solidarity Committee, representing, I guess, you know, the white population of St. Louis and the world, you know, that first of all, we have to begin by looking at the world as it really is. To say, you know, that, wait a minute, are we going to walk by the conditions that are so visible? I mean, St. Louis is not a place where the conditions in the African community are hidden. There's no way. I mean, you can be in a white community. You can walk 2 blocks around the corner, I've noticed, and you can end up in an African community, and it's a totally different world. And it's where, you know, the chairman talks about colonialism. And this is, well, you can't deny it when you're here. Because it is 2 worlds, and African people catch unmitigated hell, absolute hell, every single day, like you're saying, just to put food on the table, just to have a roof without the rain pouring in and the snow and everything else. And, you know, now taking away the schools and every means of the ability to of African people to have any control over their lives, you know, no economy, no jobs. This is not racism. This is colonialism. This is a political and economic domination by us, the oppressor nation, the colonizers. That's us, all white people, who have every aspiration that we have, every idea that we have, every scheme, every way to go to college or send our kids to college, if, you know, if we're going to buy it, like that scandal, quote unquote, you know, it's always been that, where white people buy their kids' education so that they can put, you know, they can have a diploma to hang up and get in a CEO job somewhere in some corporation. This is what colonialism is. This is where it comes from. It comes by living at the expense of African people, indigenous people, and everybody else on this planet who is struggling to be free and liberated. And that's why, you know, that we live in a system that was created by the kidnapping of African people, by the turning African human beings into commodities for sale. That's what created capitalism. And a lot of people, a lot of white people now are talking about capitalism. But if you're not talking about parasitic capitalism, capitalism born at the expense of African people, and genocide and colonialism and enslavement, and cutting off African people's hands to force them to work in Africa and slaughter, you know, it just every single day. I mean, everything that is imposed on African people, from the theft of the diamonds to the murder of Mike Brown and the police murders that we see, that we don't see in the white community. This is our relationship to African people, and a lot of us want to change it. We want to have a principled relationship. I mean, even looking at what just happened, I read in Mozambique, where in Africa, where they had this huge cyclone, which is like a hurricane, and it killed, I don't know, about 1,000 people, and it flooded and destroyed whole cities. And this is because, you know, that wouldn't have happened in that way in a white, you know, in Europe or in North America in the same way. It wouldn't have destroyed a whole city. And that is because everything from Africa has been stolen and is in our possession. And this is why we say that we must take this stand for reparations to African people. And, you know, we're not just talking about voting and the right of African people to vote in the abstract. You know, for African people to even pretend to be able to vote. People died for that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they went before dogs and fire hoses, and little girls were killed in churches in the South, in Alabama, and all over, and that struggle is still going on.
Yep.
So, I'm making the call to white people to, first of all, share this, like our Black Power Blueprint YouTube channel, tell everybody that you know to go to blackpowerblueprint.org, read it, see it, volunteer, and donate, and turn those resources back over from where they were stolen to an organization that is building political and economic power as one thing, because it goes together. You know, there's no political power without an economic base, and the chairman and deputy chair are very clear about that. And the base is returning what has been taken and stolen from African people, in stolen labor, in stolen resources, in stolen genius, and all of the brilliance that African people have been forced to contribute, to give to white people, you know, that is stolen from them, from the jazz musicians that you're talking about, it's incredible music and dance and science and all these inventions and everything else that white people make money from. So this is the time. If we want to be part of a future in which all human beings can live, no one at the expense of anybody else, pay your reparations and join the Uhuru Solidarity Movement.
Make America pay reparations.
Uhuru. Uhuru. So we have some more to thank here and acknowledge. We have, where am I now? We have Jesse Neville, $25.
Uhuru, Jesse.
We have Brent DeBoard, $15.
Uhuru.
What, you know them? New member from St. Louis. Woo! So that puts us at, we've raised $225. We only have $275 to go tonight.
You can do it. Uhuru, I just really want to really appreciate the science of the party of, you know, saying, you know, in a real profound way, because this is something that the revolution did not answer. And, you know, as we study revolution and we look at the 60s, a lot of the things that the state was able to do is because this question wasn't answered. And how white people participated in the revolution had to be a political question, and we had to say exactly what that looked like. And it was the African People's Socialist Party that laid it out clear and precise. If this is what it takes, you know, to mend that relationships, and this is what white people should be doing if they are, you know, participating in the revolution. And so I just really appreciate, you know, the science of the party. And I just want to really say to Africans, you know, the Black Power Blueprint is an African-led, you know, project under the leadership of an amazing African woman, Deputy Chair Onizine Yeshitela. And it's not because, you know, Deputy Chair, if anybody have experienced her, know that this is someone that embodies what it means to be cadre, that fights fiercely for the class, that works hard and diligently to make sure that the class have the best, that struggles in a way that I appreciate to help the class, because we have been disorganized. And as chairman say, that the class didn't wake up and say, hey, it's time to pick cotton. Let's go get our cotton. Like, we don't wake up and be excited about going to the plantation, to go on these jobs, to be treated like third-class citizens, you know, to get your check and it's still never enough to pay all your bills. You know, constantly, you know, in a situation where you're trying to rob Peter to pay Paul. That's the situation that we're in. And Deputy Chair, help us to understand that we have to overturn all those bad tendencies and take revolution and understand that this is our primarily job, and that we have to be ready to govern now. And so the work that we do by, you know, organizing ourselves to be organized and be professional is us saying that we're ready to govern our whole life. And we know that we have not seen our mothers, have power over their life, their mothers have power over their life, or our grandmothers. From generation to generation, we have not seen self-determination. So when we come into organization, we come in of a long history of someone telling us that we can't have power over our life, that we used to people dictating and telling us how to do everything in our life. And under deputy chair leadership, you're going to learn how to hold your head up high and how to have confidence in your ability to lead and do the work. And I just really wanted to say that and say that that's why we should donate today. We should donate today and, volunteer, find your way to the Black Power Blueprint and participate in this, because your life will be changed. You could not leave this program, and you could not leave and actually come into this Aquava Hall. And I have seen people's eyes that come here for the first time in any kind of event that they have or participate, and just be blown away of what we can do, what African people can do. This is truly the house that Black build. And so every dollar that you donate, you see exactly where it's going. You know how much it costs to, build something extraordinary like this or do any of the work. And these are a fight to stop gentrification. So even if you're not in St. Louis per se, donate $1, donate whatever you can right now. Don't put it off tomorrow. Go ahead and donate it today. Donate it today. We colonized, we broke anyway. So whatever, just donate it. Go ahead and give it today, because we have to, invest in our future. And investing in the Black Power Blueprint is an investment in your long-term future. To participate in this program is you saying that I am not going to just continue to be complacent in my oppression, but I am going to ball up my fists and I'm going to swing as a collective. So join this collective and swing and donate whatever you can to the Black Power Blueprint to forward the revolution, to forward all these programs, because this is not just Black Power Blueprint for St. Louis, but this is Black Power Blueprint for the whole African nation, because this is the blueprint to show Africans wherever we are, and to even believe in it, because sometimes it's hard to even believe that we will be free. And participating in the Black Power Blueprint, actually touching this program, donating to this program, give me hope in a liberating future for my kids and every African. So donate today. Give it today. Uhuru.
Well, I also want to acknowledge Allison Haney, $25.
Uhuru.
So we just need $275 more. That's
275.
so little.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just so little. So we need people to go ahead, and somebody can put that whole thing in. And I see little dots coming on my text. So maybe there's more coming in right now. But President Kalambayi, thank you for just an amazing, amazing presentation tonight. Oh, we have Renee Nassar, $10.
Renee, Uhuru.
So we've raised $235 tonight, and the remaining is $265. I just wanted to ask you, first of all, I believe there is another candidate that is tied to the Keep 28. Can you tell us about that campaign?
Yes. So we have Comrade Wanda Carlson from Madison, Illinois. Wanda had heard about Keep 28, came to the first meeting, and built the whole committee around the faith-based. So we built a faith-based committee. The faith-based committee, because Wanda was churches. So Wanda she teaches Sunday school, and she's heavily into her church, but she see what's happening, and she don't want to continue to sit back and do nothing. So she came to join the Keep 28, and now Wanda is running for the 3rd Ward in Madison, Illinois, which is very powerful, because we were talking about how the oppression of the Black vote is still happening today. Yes. And just on yesterday, I learned that in Madison, the mayor that has been the mayor, I believe, like 25 years. His whole family is in some kind of seat in Madison. He handpicks who he wants to be the alder people, so he can control, and no one knows his little dirty little secrets of how he's stealing the money of Madison or whatever else he's doing in Madison. is controlled. So what he did first, let me start here. Wanda been fighting from day one with, running. So they decided to, all the black people that were running for office in Madison, none of their names could, they decided that they sent them a letter and said none of y'all names could be on the ballot.
What?
So Wanda name, typical. So Wanda, they had a hearing for all of them to come in, to fight for their name to be on the ballot. So they told Wanda the reason why that they denied her is because on the paper, it says city or county. It don't tell you to circle. It don't say circle city or county. It just have city or county. It don't say in the instructions on the front page that you should circle city or county. So they said that we're not going to put you on the ballot because you didn't circle city or county. That's it.
Wow.
Another African man.
That's a perfect example
of
what they do.
What they do. Yeah. Another African. So when the mayor's daughter, who's the city clerk, when you go to pick up the paperwork to run, coincidence that all the white people that ran for office got the right paperwork, but the Africans got the wrong paperwork. So Wanda said that she had bypassed that anyway because she didn't think that they knew what they were doing. So she went on the website to get her paperwork because she didn't want to pick it up from them. So he did. This African man picked the paperwork up. It was the wrong paperwork. So they denied him because he filled out the wrong paperwork that he was given, like he had any control over that. Another African man.
Mississippi of 1950s.
Another African man, got the right paperwork and didn't staple the paperwork together. He said he filled it out. He said, please look at it and make sure I got everything right, because this was the second time that he ran for office, and the first time they put him, he didn't get the run because they called him out on some bull crap. This time they called him because they said that he didn't put a staple in the paperwork. And so another African woman, they said that, her driving license and her registration to vote is all at the address that she lived at. Never had any problems with anybody, have registered her kids in school, everything. Been living in this house. The house had been in her family for generations. They said, well, your name is not on a permit. Like we want to see the, I can't say the word, Oshri permit. Am I saying it wrong? Yeah, I can't say the word.
What is it? Oh,
okay. Permit. And it was like, your name's not on there, so this. So Wanda stood up, after being in, coming to the Sunday rallies and watching Chairman's political study and having political education, she stood up and just told them that she know that they had did this because they are attacking African people and they don't want African people to have power. And she kept calling them, saying African, and, she just laid it all out, standing ovation, and all the Africans that, was afraid to say things like that wanted a second chance to stand up and say they part too. And so they had to put all their names on the ballot.
Uhuru, wow. That is so exciting.
Yeah, they had to put all their names on the ballot. And so Wanda has been endorsed by the Black is Back Coalition. Wow. So she has adopted the 19 points as well. And she's running an amazing campaign. And just yesterday, the mayor, they had early voting, and he decided to shut down the doors. He didn't like what was happening. He didn't like to see so many Africans so eager to vote that they wanted to vote early, that he locked the doors down. And he's trying to do everything in his power to, fight what's happening, because the Africans over there are coming together, and, Wanda is very significant over there. They see her fight. They see that she had this political line, that she's calling on Black power, and how she is speaking truth to power. Wow. That they are, watching what she's doing, and they following her. They following the lead. And, and the people in Madison are saying, we're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And Mayor, you cannot continue to, bully us around. We're here and we're ready to speak for ourselves. And so that is very, very powerful what's happening in Madison, Illinois. With Wanda.
It's just organization and analysis, and it's just, wow, it's just taking off.
Yes.
So when is Election Day?
Election Day for Wanda, I could be wrong, but I believe it's April the 3rd. It's coming up here soon.
Right up.
It's coming right up, yeah, because they just had early voting.
Wow. Well, that is, I mean, you know, I just think that's, we have to pay reparations to this. This is working, this is winning. The chairman always says the party is winning. It's winning.
Yes.
African working class is getting organized, and the whole world wants to see the liberation of African people.
Yes.
And is inspired by it, is energized by it. And, you know, the chairman always talks about the 1950s and 60s as the time when revolution was the main trend in the whole world. And it was the time when African people were here with a cutting edge and known all around the world as, you know, as leading the world. You know, the revolutionary moral high ground of the struggle of all the oppressed and colonized peoples of the world. And we know that counterinsurgency, the U.S. assault attacked that, and killed Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and destroyed that movement. But the movement is back, and it's the Uhuru movement, and it's winning. Uhuru.
We are winning. All roads lead to Uhuru.
That's right. And we want to thank a few more people and acknowledge Comrade Ruby Gittleson, $25.
Ruby.
And Comrade Ali Ayello out in Boston, $50. Wow. So we've raised $310 now. We have only 190 to go. So go ahead and just put it on the credit card, do whatever you have to do.
Do whatever.
We got to bring in this, we've got to get over $7,000 tonight.
Yes.
You know, we're almost there.
We're almost there.
And that will put us over 30% to our goal, $20,000 in this phase. So, President Kalambayi, what is this 19 points? And tell us more about that. What is that? It sounds like, you know, it's very, very electrifying kind of platform, but just tell us a little more about it.
Yeah, I just really appreciate the Black is Back Coalition for the 19 points. The 19 points, you know, point one being, you know, African women leadership. You know, this have been a backwards question, as we know that there's no such thing as women in general. You know, but African women must lead. African women gotta lead, and nothing can stop us. Nothing can deter us. It's important for African women to participate in the revolution, and why not? We have suffered great oppression, you know, from this system, just as African men, and we not some feminist women, you know, even though we experience some oppression, you know, horizontally, but we understand that the core contradiction is the oppression that we experience as being colonized African women. So African women being the first point is right on point. And, you know, like another point is reparations. You know, another point is, you know, economic development to the Black community. Another point being Black community control of the police. And these points go on and on. Because simply just, you know, having people say that they Black power, what do that mean? We have to define these words. And so these 19 points, for a candidate to take these points and adopt it into their platform, for us to strategically say that this is what your demands are, this is what you're going to do while you're in office, these are the things that you want, this is how we can, you know, hold you accountable to the success of you being in that office, is around this platform, you know, how you move, like strategically. So that was very important, you know, for the candidates to have these 19 points, to hold people feet to the fire around something, because people can say, I love you all day and do something different. You know what I'm saying? So this is not some liberal thing. This is, you know, strategically, this is a principle and based on no subjectivity, not on I like you, you got a good jump shot, but I'm holding you accountable to these points that you're going to make sure that we hold the police accountable. And the way that you're going to fight for that is you're going to be demanding for Black community control of the police. Because if we don't have candidates that have a platform, when they in that arena with white power, they will fall for anything. Soon as somebody come in there and say, hey, you know, I think we can give out free body cameras to everybody in the hood. Then they was like, well, we got body cameras. Well, that you adopted the 19 points that says black community control of the police, and this is why we need black community control of the police. So how can we settle for body cameras? So that's why it's so important.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's really interesting. It's really clear because it's a very different demand for black community control of the police than of community control of police. Because
Say that.
the question is, which community? And
Right.
we know is going to be the white community continuing to control that.
Right here in St. Louis, we have a community control board.
So there you go. And
We
then
have
we
a
still
community-
have Africans getting gunned down.
We got Africans still getting gunned down. We still had Jason Stockley walking out the same courtroom, a not guilty verdict, with a community control board. So, this is a clear example. You got your community control board. This is one of the things that, some people pat themselves on the back for after Ferguson. They put pressure on St. Louis City to give the community board when we were saying, no, you're going in the wrong way. We need black community control of the police. They said, no, we can't put the black word there. Community control. Well, we got a community control board where they handpick who they want to be on the community control board, and they always side with the police. They haven't spoke to our interests at all because we cannot surrender or compromise, and we have to stand fast on the word black. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. Black. You know what I'm saying? Black. You know what I'm saying? Just be black. Like, we can't be afraid of it. People tell us, well, just, maybe don't say black. Just say power, people's power or something. No, I know exactly what I'm saying when I say black. Black power.
It seems like it's just gaining traction,
Yeah.
everywhere. And, this whole question of reparations and how suddenly all these people some people from the Democratic Party are now running on this question of reparations to African people, but they mean maybe giving tax credits or, what is, say something about that, because you said that reparations is part of the Black is Back 19 points.
Yeah, it's part of the Black is Back 19 points, but I would just want to go back and give credit to the African People's Socialist Party that led the first tribunal, I believe in 1982.
Yes.
This first tribunal where we had this tribunal and had this discussion, a very serious conversation, and said at that point in 1982 that it was trillions and trillions of dollars that was owed to the African people, and all the work that we have done around reparations, and the African People's Socialist Party is not sitting around waiting for it. We collecting reparations right now. And we take that very seriously, and the reparations go to the African nation to build the programs for the revolution to have continued and dual power, a revolutionary trajectory. What the Democrat Party is talking about is because of the work that the African People's Socialist Party has done. What the Vanguard Revolutionary Organization has done. I got to participate in African Shores Genocide, which was an amazing campaign that is still going on today. There were over 10,000 people have signed this online petition, and numerous people signed our clipboards where we went into Flint, Michigan, where people told us that, famous people came here, took pictures with us, but what you guys came and gave us with understanding that this is genocide and explaining to us that what genocide means, to sign this clipboard and know that we part of something to destroy this system that is oppressing Flint, because it wasn't that they just gave them dirty water, but gentrification is happening in Flint. They wanted to push the African community out because they wanted it to be a college town. So one side of Flint got clean water, and the African people don't have clean water because they have to have resources to dig up the ground in their yard and put clean pipes to connect themselves to the clean water now. So let's tell it, it's not something like, oh, they can't figure it out. They know exactly what they're doing. They murdering Africans in Flint with dirty water, and we were there. We went to the United Nations working group, and we testified, and we slept outside in tents. And the poor working class didn't even know that they were taking testimonies. And the testimony was these petty bourgeois Negroes that wanted to talk about symptoms of houses and all this stuff. And we said, this is genocide. We understand that this is genocide. You could say all these different symptoms, but what about genocide? And in that report that they turned in, they said that they recommend America to pay reparations. So it's not by some coincidence that the Democrats are trying to run or talk about reparations. But what we know is that we have to continue to organize the working class, because the petty bourgeoisie could not come to a conclusion that speaks to all of our interests. They have showed us time after time after time that they will sell us out. So it's up to us, the working class, to continue to keep this in the forefront, the question of reparations. So we say that all African people are owed reparations, Africa included, for everything that has been looted out of Africa. Need to be returned to Africa, and we need to have resources, the return of our resources and everything that is owed to us. And the indigenous people need to have their land back.
Uhuru. Wow, this is so powerful. What a great discussion. I really appreciate this interview tonight. And there's so much more to say.
Yes.
We always want to have you back. We've had you on before, and
yes.
It's always really, really, really powerful. I want to salute Comrade Kyle Weiss, who put in $5 tonight. So we've raised $315. We only have $185 to go. So that's about a movie night and dinner with the average white family.
Yes.
So let's.
You got 5 more right here.
All right, $5. And what's your name? Mike. All right,
Uhuru.
Mike. Right here in the studio audience. $5. So that puts us at, we've raised 320. So we only have 180 to go. And we can do this.
We can do it.
And I would just like to ask President Kalambayi any last words. I know there's so much more that we could discuss. This has been very profound and very exuberating, if that's a word, just to see the response and just the work that's happening to transform this area in particular into a model of dual and contending power in the hands of the African working class.
Yeah.
It's really, really inspiring and beautiful to see.
Yes, I really want to appreciate, Chairwoman Penny Hess. I just really appreciate your stance. I remember meeting you in Ferguson, and just to be able to see, a white person to be able to take the right stance, and, lead the organization that, under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. I just really salute you and appreciate you and all the work that you and everyone else have done with the webinars under the leadership of Deputy Chair Onizane Yeshatela. I just really want to appreciate Deputy Chair, for being a great example to so many, not only African women, but Africans in general. Just, having this stance to fight, no matter what. I seen her coming here with no plumbing, in cold, freezing weather when she's born in Florida. Like, that's something, like, when you grow up and you're not used to these conditions, and then you come and be here. At one point she was thinking about staying, like sleeping here. We was like, okay, no, wait, you're going too far, and I just really appreciate her stance. And everybody else, and I don't want to start naming everybody part of the Black Power Blueprint, but I just really want to appreciate Black Power Blueprint because, in Chairman's political report, because this all started from, a political report on what we needed to do. And, that political report becoming reality.
To see it is a beautiful thing.
It's so beautiful.
Wow. Only the party, the African People's
It's so party. And I just really appreciate that, because it's given me hope in something that, I didn't. So many Africans, such as myself, and I know that can, bear witness to what I'm saying, is that this have been hell, that the only thing that I was having hope for is going to heaven. Because, for African people, this is hell. And I actually got to live with a white family and see how different the reality is. And that's gruesome, like just to see that it's just, somebody could actually not know anybody in jail, and, and people in their family do the same crimes that people in my family do. But, somebody going to jail is not some small thing, but the whole family is locked up. My family have been locked up for over 20 some years. My brother have got locked up in 1992. and he's still in jail today. Not for murder, for drugs that was put in our community. So, you know, I just really appreciate the African People's Socialist Party, and I'm going to be here to the end, you know. And I just really encourage people to donate to this, be a part of this program, and be a part of the Uhuru movement, you know. Figure out how to get involved in this, you know, get in contact with the Black Power Blueprint, volunteer, etc. You know, whatever you can do, because this is an amazing, and it changed your life, it transformed your life. And I just really appreciate the party and, you know, what we brought to St. Louis, you know, from Ferguson and what happened, and then like what we're doing now is just, I don't even have words for what it do. But one thing that I do know it's not because I wished it, it's not because I dreamed it. I didn't have a dream like Martin Luther King. I'm not wishing up on a star, and it's not because I had a prayer and Jesus seen me at night or something like that. It's because of the practical work that I have been involved in and actually seeing the world transform, and to know that African people will be free and we will gain our resources and our land. It's going to happen in our lifetime. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Thank you so much, President Kalambayi, International People's Democratic Uhuru movement from Facing That?
Yes.
Facing That and $20.
Uhuru.
Woo! All right, so that puts us at $325 raised. So it means we have, well, I'm probably at, no, 300, I'm sorry, Amanda, could you tell me what it is? I can't do that while I'm talking here, but we're getting closer. But I really want to say what an honor it is to be able to be on the forward side of history due to the leadership of the African working class, which elevates, you know, the African working class is going to win. It is going to destroy imperialism, and it's going to take everybody with them who wants to go.
Yep.
They want to bring the world there. This is not,
want to go?
you know, all these white people are always like, we're always like, well, what about the Native people? What are you talking about? This is the revolution of all oppressed and colonized people on the planet Earth, and African workers have led that always and will now. And, you know, it's an honor to be here, and it's so powerful to know that there is a world that we can live in, and it is being created. It's not an idea far away in the sky. It is being created every single day, and that everything that the African People's Socialist Party commits and makes a promise to put into place, they do it, and they do it so fast.
Yes, we do.
That it shows, you know, the brilliance and the incredible effectiveness of the leadership of the African working class. So I want to thank you for being on. We have raised $325. We have $175 to go. So go ahead and put that in. I'm going to read some of our announcements, if I can find them, here tonight, of events that are coming up, including the fact that, I don't know if this has, okay, so this weekend, March 23rd and 24th, is going to be, I think you mentioned that, the National Plenary Convention of the African National Women's Organization.
Yes.
So here in St. Louis at the Uhuru House, Saturday and Sunday. You can go to ANWO, ANWO, Uhuru, UHURU.org to find out more about that and to come, and that's going to feature President Yejide Ornila, leader of the African National Women's Organization, who we had on a few weeks ago. Very powerful African woman leader and member of the National Central Committee of the African People's Socialist Party.
Chairman Amali Yeshitela will be speaking there as well.
Amali
Deputy Chair Ona Zene Yeshitela will be doing a workshop there.
This is going to be amazing.
You don't want to miss it.
You need to fly in, drive in to St. Louis.
Whatever you have to do.
Here, and I believe you'll be able to watch it live streaming if you aren't able to make it. It's going to be powerful. I also, you talked about the Black is Back Coalition for Peace, Justice, and Reparations is holding the 3rd Electoral School at the St. Petersburg Uhuru House.
Yes.
At 18, I'm sorry, oh my brain, I'm sorry, 1245 18th Avenue South or Tyrone Lewis Avenue in St. Petersburg, Florida. Go to blackisbackcoalition.org to find out more, and that is going to be April 6th and 7th, so that's coming right up, and that's going to be amazing. And talking more about these different forces running for office in a growing number of cities throughout this country on using the 19-point platform. And we have the Uhuru Solidarity Movement annual convention, which I don't see on here, so could you tell me more about that?
April 14th and 15th.
April 14th and 15th.
13th and 14th.
13th and 14th at the, here in St. Louis at the Uhuru House. And also next Monday night will be the tour, All Diamonds Are Blood Diamonds, stop here in
St. Louis.
In St. Louis, sponsored by the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, and that is going to be at the Empowerment Center at the Center for Divine Love, 3617 Wyoming Street. It's going to feature T'Charwa Masimba of the African People's Socialist Party and a leading member of the Black Power Blueprint Committee. And it's going to be at March 25th, Monday night at 6:30 p.m. So just really want to, again, thank you. Yes, go ahead.
This Friday, we're having the Black Power Poetry Night here at the Aquaba Hall, and that's 4101 West Florissant. This is a Black Power Poetry event that is being put on by the Black Power Blueprint. So all the resources that's raised will be going to the Black Power Blueprint. It's $5. It's going to be a great time. We have amazing lineup of poetries, and you can hit the stage as well and sign up. It'll be room for people to be able to come and do their piece. So if you do poetry, you can participate in that as well. It's $5. Come and have a great time with us. And that is going to be from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. this Friday, March the 22nd.
Here at the Uhuru House. So that's going to be powerful. And I saw one of the last ones that was done several months ago, and it was incredible. It was live stream. I wasn't here, but I saw it on the live stream, so it's very exciting to be here. And so I just really wanted to salute everybody who came out tonight. Please share this. Again, go to YouTube, our YouTube channel for Black Power Blueprint, and subscribe, get notifications, share it, tell everybody about it. We're building our channel, we're going forward, and we want to say unity through
reparation.